Morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is J.R. Moore coming to you live from deep in the mountains of the Missouri Ozarks. On Tuesday, the 24th day of September, year of our Lord 2019, welcome to the John Moore Show. We begin our shows with something that would turn the San Francisco City Council into babbling idiots to even hear this, but we start our shows with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Prepper tip of the day, this is for the men, and very few women, but this is a time of year, gentlemen, when you start getting out those chainsaws to cut up the firewood for the season. Almost none of you have or use Kevlar chaps like I do. I want to encourage all of you to please consider getting Kevlar chaps, and of course wear your heavy leather work boots, your leather gloves, and one of those special helmets with the hearing protection and the eye shield. Protect your hearing, protect your eyes. And that's the prepper tip of the day. We have patient Wayne in the green room, my friend Steve Ben Noon. Steve has a website. That website is IsraeliNewsLive.org. There's a link from my links page at thelibertyman.com. We'll be talking about geopolitical matters and all kinds of topics. If you want to call us, the call number is 800-313-9443. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, John. How are you today?
I am, well, quite frankly, if I felt any better, it wouldn't be legal. How about yourself?
Well, I guess that's a good way to put it. So, yeah, maybe I should say the same thing. So, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good today, and that's nice. So,
well, I changed my morning workout. I do my stretching, basically the same stretching I started doing as a runner, a sprinter in high school, and then I do my 300 crunches. And my 100 push-ups, I've modified slightly. I'm doing a deeper push-up to get more benefit from each of the 100 push-ups. And then do a little more stretching, and I'm done. It takes about, 12 to 15 minutes to do the whole thing. But I'm really pleased with the results, and I just continue to modify and work on things that will help, including beginning today, I'll be doing the aerobics part. The anaerobic part, the sit-ups and crunches is fine. But I'll be working on the aerobic part beginning today. I've got a 1-mile trail that I walk here at my place. As soon as I walk out my back door and go up the hill, it's equivalent to walking up a 10-story building. And then go from there to up and down these hills and enjoying the wildlife and God's gift to mankind, which is this beautiful planet. So that begins today, since the heat of summer is finally past, and I can do so without a threat of having heat stroke.
Wow. And John, how old are you?
How old am I? I am 72 years old, sir.
You know, it's interesting. I had a friend we used to eat breakfast a lot. He was in his 90s, mid-90s at the time, and he was still doing brisk walk a couple of miles a day. But he told me when he was in his 70s, he said, I started jogging, and he said, but you know, Steve, I only did it at nighttime because I figured they would think, what is this crazy old kook out here running for? And he said he would jog 5 miles a day. And he did that up until about his mid-80s, and then he started just walking instead of the jogging. So, and to hear of a guy in his 70s doing the push-ups and everything like you're doing, I'm going to get my father-in-law moving then. He's about 80 now, so I'm going to see if I can't get him doing about 100 push-ups a day.
Well, you need to start. I started my workout program, the current one, in January, with only 25 push-ups a day and maybe 50 crunches, and added to it incrementally week by week to get to the point where I could do 100 without feeling like I was going to die. So you just can't jump in there from ground zero doing what I do. At least that would not be very wise.
Right.
It has to be incremental. If and this is for everybody out there, if you have any underlying health issues, be sure and consult with your health professional before beginning any exercise routine. Now, I'm still a runner. I was going to compete this year in the 100-meter dash again, but my caregiving obligations got in the way of that. So I will be training for the running events also, and once again be doing the 100-meter sprint. but I don't run on pavement. I always run on either a track that has a special rubberized surface, or on grass. Running on pavement is not good for ankles and knees and hips. I don't care if you got $100 shoes or not. I don't run on pavement. I did once, training in the Army, and I found out the hard way that that's not a wise thing to do. Steve, we got a caller on hold here. He goes by, or he or she goes by, Friend of the People, Illinois. Morning. Okay. Friend, you're on the air.
Yes. Good morning, Colonel Moore. The last time I spoke to you was probably 20 years ago when you were busy trying to sell Y2K backup generators. But times have changed, and some people are still waiting for this liberation that's coming from the Far East, and as I am. But last Tuesday, I should say, was Constitution Day. But that's what you Americans believe in a U.S. Constitution. But there's a better document that's out there, and that's called the UN Charter, which is actually updated and has plenty of meaning for today. And it's not going to allow most Americans to carry weapons of their own choosing. They're going to have to turn them in. And one thing that could help your weight loss program, Colonel Moore, is a re-education camp, and that could be invaluable to you. Do you have any thoughts on?
I think you should show up at my house and try to get me to get to one, sir. That would be a great opportunity for you.
Well, I wouldn't do it myself.
Of course you would, because you're a coward and you're an idiot, and this conversation is finished, sir. Goodbye.
They definitely got concentration camps coming.
Yeah,
hey,
right.
John, there's no doubt about it. So,
unfortunately, Steve, there's literally hundreds of thousands of men and women who believe what this deranged individual believes. And I started referring to them as the socialist, communist, Democrats, Muslims, because they've all united together in their insanity. I wanted to give him enough airtime to make it really clear to all our listeners of the psychosis of the caller. And I regard it as a complete psychosis. To believe anything the United Nations does is good is obviously a psychotic, in my opinion. Well, that was an interesting distraction, Steve, to say the least.
So you already kind of had an idea where he was going to start with, and John said...
it took me about 60 seconds. I'm pretty sure I know who this guy is. It took me about 60 seconds to figure out and determine who he was. But it's still America. He's still entitled to believe his freakish, bizarre, dangerous beliefs. And as long as he keeps them to himself and doesn't try to impose them on anybody else, that's fine. That's what we do in this country. But the moment that his freakish, bizarre, dangerous beliefs impose on me or any other American, that's the line that can't be crossed. What do you think, Steve?
Well, I agree. The thing is, John, is there is that real threat that we're facing out there, and of course, China is definitely, I think, one of our biggest threats here in the United States. And but probably in a way that we're not going to anticipate it. And they will want to have Americans rounded up and into their little into these little FEMA camps afterwards. John, when you'd mentioned to me, you'd sent me the text originally about this, what FEMA was preparing for. And then I heard the other day over there, and they'd mentioned you by name as well.
They who mentioned me by name? Where?
That's on. Oh gosh, what am I? I
Dave
got.
Hodges?
I went blank on it, John. I actually went blank for some reason. I had it right there in my mind and just totally dropped what I was thinking about there. It's the mm,
Well, it'll come back to you probably about
yeah,
9 o'clock tonight.
yeah. No, I don't
But
want it to be that long.
that's okay.
Let me say what they were saying, and then maybe
Okay.
it'll jog my brain what I was trying to get out there. But they were speaking about the EMP attack and Hal Turner. That's where it was at, the Hal Turner show.
Okay.
They were talking about a possible EMP attack. They were speaking similarly from what you had said, that they had a source with FEMA, that they were given these the radios there, shortwave radios packed inside a EMP proof case basically.
Right.
And of course their elaboration is that they felt like that once an attack of this type went in the upper atmosphere with some type of a nuclear device that would render the country inoperable, so to speak, that this would be when China would of course their conjecture is that China would actually take at that point there and try to overthrow the nation. Going back to the times when the one defense minister of China was being recorded and they didn't know it would end up getting leaked out, which maybe they did know it was going to get leaked out, who knows. So that's one of the things, and they were discussing the issue about disarming the nation, and this is one of the reasons why they wanted to do it. And we could end up expecting to see UN troops here in the United States. But I don't know. I believe these type of things are very real threats that we're going to be facing in the near future in this country. And because the only way, I don't know, John, I tell you what, your thought really would be good on this, because my mind right now.
Okay, well,
is
let's talk about EMP
directions.
a bit. I know more about EMP than most non-scientists, and my belief has changed over the last year or so, year and a half, about what the real threat of EMP is. First of all, you need to look at what the goal of our enemies are, primarily Russia and China. They want to capture a country for its resources, and being able to access resources in terms of agricultural production, petroleum products, timber, mining products, whatever it might be, coal, steel. They need to have a functioning infrastructure in terms of the locks and dams that make our waterways work, the railroads, the airports, and so forth. A nationwide EMP, and of course the oil refineries and the mines and whatever is involved in mining industry. Regardless, a nationwide EMP would wreck all that for years. You take out EMP takes out an oil refinery, for example, it'll be 3 to 5 years before they can replace all the electronics in an oil refinery. You knock out the electronics of the locks and dams that make our rivers work for barge traffic, it will be years to repair all that. They don't want that. What I believe they'll do, Steve, when it comes to EMP, is localized EMP to take out command and control of our military as necessary to accomplish their goal. And they can also selectively knock out parts of the power grid using computer hacking, which does not permanently damage very much, if anything at all, and accomplish their goals that way, as opposed to a nationwide EMP, which I believe if we were in a full-blown war and they thought they were going to lose, then it would be a Hail Mary. Well, let's blow these suckers up anyway, since we're about to lose the war, and then go ahead and do nationwide EMP. So that's my thoughts on EMP, which I don't believe they're going to be changing, Steve.
Yeah, I can certainly understand exactly what you're talking about. Not to mention that, as you said, the desire is for the natural resources of this country I think back to the defense minister that information from China that was leaked out. You know, he said that they would not make the mistake that Germany made when it come to having so many foes. He said America is their main enemy, and so that when they do go about trying to bring down this nation, they will focus directly on the U.S. only. But you know, John, I don't ever see China making that move unless we were in a very awkward position in this nation in the first place. I don't see China, or any nation for that matter, other than if it's a situation between the United States and Russia. If for some reason we ended up in a conflict, China, I don't think, is just going to jump out there and say, oh, let's go ahead and take down America. We would have to have something happen in this country internally, I believe, that would cause any nation to say, well, now's the opportunity. Let's take advantage of that, because it just, I mean, what's your thought on that, John? I just don't see that happening.
Well, I don't either. And the threat posed by Russia and China and their allies is a clear and present danger. The dream of every general, if he's going to be going into war, is to be able to pre-position men, supplies, and weapons, pre-position them where the war is going to take place. Now, that's already happened. All the men, the supplies, and the weapons have been pre-positioned inside this country. They've been pre-positioned in Mexico, all over Central America. That's the bad news. The good news is that President Trump has reached out to the president of El Salvador, which is between Nicaragua and us, possibly looking to make the El Salvador an ally. I don't know if that's going to be successful, but it would be a good thing to have an ally as a blocking force between Nicaragua and our country. And we have a break. The call number is 800-313-9443.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore here on Tuesday, the 24th of September. I'll be speaking in Orlando, Florida on Friday, the 8th day of February. The location is yet to be announced unless Steve's figured it out. And then the following morning, all of us that are going on the cruise will be leaving on the cruise. Saturday, the 9th day of February. We'll be gone for a week. It's a beautiful, the largest ship they make, the Harmony of the Seas, Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines. This ship has 20 restaurants on it. Can you believe that? 20 restaurants. It'll be a lot of fun. We hope to get word from Sam Andrews and his wife that he'll be going. We're waiting patiently for that. Otherwise, myself, Leon Green, and as many folks that want to come will be going with us. Details at my website at thelibertyman.com. If you'd like our cruise director, Betsy Murphy, to mail you a full-color brochure, I met with Betsy briefly yesterday. Betsy's telephone number, twice, slowly, 636-530-9502. I say again, 636-530-9502. Visiting Mr. Steve Ben-Nun, his website is Israeli News Live, IsraeliNewsLive.org, I believe it is, isn't it, Steve?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Do we have a venue yet for our speaking engagement on Friday the 8th of February?
Next week, we will have all the details that we can announce, and I'll also have it on the website by then, John. Okay. That way people will know more about it. I just have to finish doing the final details with them, but it should be the Hilton there in Ultimate Springs, Florida. It's actually the Embassy Suites by Hilton is what it is. That will be the venue location. We just have to do the final confirmation with the folks over there, getting all the paperwork in line for that. And
all right. And in February, the temperatures in Florida should be quite moderate and quite pleasant, I would think.
Yes, it should be about like what it is for you right now.
All right. Well, thank goodness.
A break in the heat, but not got rid of completely. So,
just a few miles north of you is Sanford, Florida. I don't know if you've ever been there or not, but the airport at Sanford, Florida, was the command and control center during the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that. Yeah, I have been to Sanford before. So.
They still have the original tower there, unless it's been torn down. I haven't been there for quite a few years. A friend of mine was an aviating student there. They have a world-class aviation school there. But it's kind of an interesting little factoid that that's where they ran the missions, the Air Force missions in and out of there during the Cuban Missile Crisis. It would have been, 1962, I think? 62? Or 61, whenever it was. Well, Steve, getting back to the clear and present danger posed by the socialist, communist, Democrats, Muslims, people need to be aware of this. You and I, we're watchmen on the wall. We have access to privileged information from private sources. We've passed it along to people publicly so that they can incorporate it into their base of knowledge and then make informed decisions, correct?
That's exactly right, John. It's not every day these people are willing to speak these things, and of course they do it at their risk to their own, in some cases, jobs that they're continuing to do. So to give us that information to make us well informed, and that danger is very real.
Oh, it is, and having the threat of loss of a career, paycheck, and pension is no small thing. And I learned as a very young man in Vietnam that men will put their career, paycheck, and pension ahead of doing the right thing. And once these men got to be a E6 and above in the enlisted ranks, they would keep quiet about how wrong the Vietnam War was. Almost all the officers, especially once they got above company grade, they would keep their mouth shut because they had a career, they had a family, they had a pension to look forward to, and why should they jeopardize all that to tell the truth? It didn't make any sense to them, so they didn't.
That's it. That's exactly right, John. And the thing is what people don't realize is what went on then is going on today. My father actually had to leave the Navy because of those very things. Some of the things that he was outspoken about cost him, after he'd already served nearly, he's close to about 20 years, about 18 years, and he had to leave as a result.
And was that during Vietnam?
He was in Vietnam, but it was actually the Vietnam War was not the issue for him, John. His issue was, there was a lot, of course, back in those days. I'm sure you'll remember. There's a lot of still prejudice in the military, and he saw one black man that was being railroaded pretty bad for something he knew that he didn't do, and he stood up for him. And of course, that was still a rarity, but the thing was he felt that in his own way that he couldn't deal with it any longer. So, so he ended up making the choice to leave as a result.
Hold that thought. We got a caller on hold. We got a break. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We have a special promotion going on at Republic Broadcasting. This is a fundraiser for Republic Broadcasting involving the Energy Cleaner. Mail me a postcard. My address is at my website at thelibertyman.com. We pick a postcard every other Thursday. When your postcard is drawn out, you get to buy an energy cleaner for $215 instead of $285, $70 discount. $200 goes to Republic Broadcasting. You also get a 10% discount on my mattress pads. So get those postcards in, put your name, your telephone number, your email address on there, and when your postcard is drawn, you get to get an energy cleaner for $215 instead of $285. Mattress pads, 10% off. Help us out at Republic Broadcasting and help yourself to get an energy cleaner at a deep discount. It's a win-win situation for everybody. We hope you can get these postcards in soon. Thank you very much. All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore here on Tuesday, the 24th of September. My website is thelibertyman.com. That's thelibertyman.com. If you're living with arthritis pain, and I know many of you are, Energy Cleaner will help you. It will, seriously. You got joint pain, back pain, Energy Cleaner will help you. Would you like to sleep as well as a small child every night like I do? You need an Energy Cleaner. $285 shipping included to American zip codes. Keep in mind, I offer from me to you personally a 90-day money-back guarantee. Check out the energy cleaners, the mattress pads that go with them at my website at thelibertyman.com, where you can place your order using PayPal, MasterCard, Visa. You can send me a check. My address is right there. You can also call my toll-free order line 24 hours a day. Order line only. Don't try to call me at 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Visiting Mr. Steve Ben-Noon. His website is IsraeliNewsLive.org. And we're taking your questions and comments. Steve, we got two callers on hold. First, we have John in Tennessee. Good morning, John.
Good morning, John. Good morning, Steve. Steve, I'm wondering about the 27th coming up. I've been looking into it a little bit, and I found out that Nikki Haley had been invited. Do you know whether or not she's accepted or whether anyone else from the United States is going to go and represent?
I haven't heard anything as far as U.S. Representatives there, where the Sanhedrin has invited the 70 nations there. Not saying that they may not. I know that Michelle Bachmann was recently on board trying to move, in support of moving the Hague, the International Criminal Court, to Israel. But I'm not aware of anything as far as this the 27th meeting and whether or not the U.S. will have any officials represented there.
Well, I hope not. What's frightening, Steve, is that Nikki Haley and Bachmann both supposedly, I don't even want to use the word Christian, because this sacrifice it's not originally sanctioned by Israel. I don't know if anyone listening is aware of it. It's the children of Noah, which is something entirely different. They're talking about making, instituting the Noahide laws, which would make every Christian a idol worshiper, subject to beheading. And if Bachmann gets the Hague moved to Israel, they're just stating out loud that they're for global government and a world court, a one world government, decapitation. I mean, they're not stupid people. They know what the agenda is. So why is it, Steve, that the church, the body of Christ, is asleep to what's going on in Israel?
I would agree. There's a lot of sleeping Christians out there not recognizing the things that are coming. And I think a lot of even the things that John and I have been speaking about earlier with China and the threat we face here in the United States, a lot of these things are linked together. And I've got a friend in the Mossad that could tell you that as well. But only time will tell on that issue there. But yeah, Michelle Bachmann had contacted me back in 2016, and I saw her making a 180-degree turn. So, she's really distancing herself from things that she knew to be truthful, and she very clearly had an agenda laid out. So. And then when I saw her involved in the Netherlands, I was not surprised at all.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for having him on, John. One more question, if I can.
Go ahead.
You had a choice, gentlemen, but you had a choice between a totalitarian dictatorship or a tyrannical dictatorship and a Soviet. And I know that's not a good choice, but if you were forced to choose between the two, which would you choose?
Running out in the middle of nowhere.
Well, if you had to choose, which would you choose?
Well,
and I know it's a difficult question.
A person could characterize a absolute monarchy as a dictatorship as synonyms. It's been said there's nothing better than a good absolute monarchy. And there's also nothing worse than a bad absolute monarchy.
I said a tyrannical dictatorship.
Well,
so if you had
my choice
choose,
would be to escape. That would be my choice.
Yes. That's the same for me.
So really, the way that we're going, and I don't want to take the choice either. But if I were forced to say one or the other, I would choose a Soviet and then fight to change it. So
well, good luck on that.
Well, good luck to changing a tyrannical dictatorship as well. But
okay.
That's where we're headed. So are the Soviets?
It's an intellectual exercise, but that's all it's ever going to be. Right. John, thank you for your call, sir. Next we go to another John. It's John in Tennessee, in Texas. Good morning, John.
Good morning. I have a kind of a new lies for old type question. Well, all these, all these so-called changes were taking place in Eastern Europe and the so-called breakup of the Soviet Union. China had a Tiananmen Square, and they suppressed the movement there. The protests or the calls to reform there, but what in fact was going on behind the scenes in China and East Asia while all this was going on in Eastern Europe, and what was there? What did we know about what they were aware of? How much were they in on the scam?
Well, it's difficult to know about what was going on behind the scenes because it's behind the scenes, and of course. They being the powers that be in Eastern Europe and China were the orchestrators they orchestrated these things to happen. Steve, you got any follow-up on that?
Well, I do know that China is heavily involved in Eastern Europe, and of course, living over in Eastern Europe as well for 4 years, I got to see firsthand the amount of Chinese involvement in the purchase of lands as well as companies in Eastern Europe. And quite frankly, I know that, in fact, there was an article that just came out recently about the Florida governor speaking about China being one of the greatest threats to the United States because they're all across the world overtaking natural resources and Africa. And, you know, but there's a lot more to it, John, than what a lot of people realize. They have no idea. It's just like, for example, back in the 90s, a lot of our major manufacturing companies were all being moved over to China.
Before you go any farther, our U.S. Congress provided financial incentives for these companies to move.
Sure. And you know, John, I mean, being that I come from a Jewish background, I got a lot of wealthy Jewish friends, and including those that were moving the companies over there. So I know a little bit more about a lot of the reasons why they were doing this. There was a major desire to be able to get the products built for pennies on the dollar, and of course China was the place to go. There's a fascination, I should say, for the communist way, the communist regime, and what they can get done for next to nothing, but yet still sell the product to, I have to say, Western civilization. It's not just the United States, Canada, Western Europe, etc., and still make a ton of money on it. But also, too, there is knowing what was coming in the future. You have to understand, for Jewish people, it's not the common Jewish everyday person, but especially in the elite circles, there are plans that are laid out years and years and years in advance, especially those that are in the Kabbalistic circles, studying under people that most of your listeners probably would not even know who I'd be talking about, but the Vilna Gaon, etc. And these are plans that are put in place for the infrastructure of the way society would go in the future. And they've known that Western civilization would be brought down. They have known that the East would be where the economic move would be. So therefore, these wealthy Jewish men knew to move their companies out of the United States. And of course, the lobby that we have in Congress made sure that they were able to get the incentives they needed to help facilitate this major undertaking.
Well, it's a shame. It's a shame, John. Yes. Anything else, John? Before we move on, we need to move on here.
All right. Another thing. What is since you're on the subject of the wealthy Jewish families, what families involved in this? What is the relationship? Do you know of the creation of communism and secret societies such as Masonry, the Sabbatean Frankists, and the and other esoteric groups that were operating in the late 18th century and in the 19th century? Was communism a front for secrets? Oh, I want to ask your guest.
We got 6 minutes before the next break. You've asked a question that would take 2,000 pages to answer in detail. John, thank you for your call. What can you say as a quick response to an incredibly complex question there, Steve?
Well, I think what he's referring to, John, is that there were a lot of infiltrations that were going on, especially in the Freemasonry. We know that back in the late 1800s, in Europe, and it is a very complex question, but in Europe there was infiltrations where they were allowing the Jewish people in the elite circles of the Jewish people to join into Freemasonry. This is where they heavily affected some of their teachings. And I'm not trying to say that Freemasonry is a good organization to begin with, but just yes, there is a lot of that. And he's talking about the Sabbatean Frankist, which is a very evil sect, and they were the ones that did get into the Freemasonry. But it's a complex issue. It goes into steering the world in the direction that they wanted it to go into. And
Right.
One simple thing I'll say, John, to this is that there is a in all these complex issues, we can go back 200 years ago in the writings that were being made by these elitists, and they had, even down to the generation names that we see today, Generation X, that they talk about, Generation Y, etc. These are all being taken from the plans of what they call the utopia, that they're and everything's following the script, believe it or not. That's too deep. You're right. It would take hours. It'd take weeks to bring all.
Yeah. We're a talk show. It would take an entire semester at a university to cover this. We got our next caller is Murr in Wisconsin. Good morning, Murr.
Good morning. Well, Rabbi Stephen Wise says some call it communism, I call it Judaism. All of this is spinning out of the ones that love money. It's either Christ or Antichrist. We're in a spiritual battle, and we all know that. And to get away from that is to get away from the media. It is their media, based on mammon. Of course they know the generations, because they're telling us what ear tags they're going to put in us and what feedlots. Don't follow their script. When they call you a baby boomer, say, no, honor thy father and thy mother.
All right.
This is
That's
important.
good advice, sir. Yes, you're right. It is. You're right, Murray. It is important, and we do thank you for your call.
And keep your eye on these sacrifices. Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Murray. We appreciate it. That's good. Murray is giving some wise counsel there, isn't she?
She is. If people keep their mind on Christ, if they keep their thoughts on the Word of God and stuff, that's the best thing, because she's right. The mainstream media, everything is ran by the same cabal, and they are following their own script. And the thing is we have a script. It's called the Bible. And just go by that, because what's coming is going to be very sinister, John. And, I mean, it's going to look so much like the real deal, and I'm seeing it. I mean, this major push of trying to get Christians to go underneath Talmudic rabbis. I'm thinking to myself, my gosh, I thought Jesus said about the Pharisees, you're of your father the devil. And that's not meaning Jewish people per se, but, if we've not seen a change in that type of teaching mentality over the last 2,000 years, pray for my brothers and sisters that are Jews that they will recognize Christ as well. But don't go back and sit underneath that type of a teaching. That's like insanity.
It is. Well, in addition, we've got the Pope advocating that Christianity, that the Catholic Church merge with Islam.
Yeah.
How insane is that?
That's just as wacko as the rest, and that's, the Pope is warning. I mean, he had this huge giant serpent in the Vatican not too few months ago there, and he was saying that he was trying to bring in. You mean
a piece of artwork, a statue, what?
It was to represent a particular god of I forget the name of that religion. That he was trying to embrace, but it was to be inclusion, just like you said. They're trying to join back up with the Muslim religion, and he was some other wacko religion out there that he wanted to join into, and they running around with a giant serpent in the Vatican, and I would say some type of artwork is what it was. Like
an oil painting or a statue or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Kind of more like what the Japanese use when or the Chinese do when they're having their festivals and they're running through with the dragon.
Oh, sure. The silk dragon with somebody holding up on a stick, yeah.
Exactly. Something like that.
Amazing. Well, St. Louis is a major Catholic town, and consequently, I was married to a Catholic woman, and of course, on one hand, the Pope is supposed to be infallible. On the other, most Catholics I know don't like this guy, this Pope. I don't know how they can hold these discordant thoughts in their brain at the same time, but they do.
Well, I was told when we were doing the conference here in Orlando not too long ago, there was a couple of Catholic girls that were there, and they said to me, Steve, we support what you do, but you need to understand one thing. The Pope that we have now is a crypto Jew that has infiltrated the Vatican, and he's not a real Catholic.
But according to their own religion, he's infallible. How about that? We got a break. We'll be right back.
Republic Broadcasting Network depends on listener support of our advertisers and of our sponsors. We'd like to especially thank all of you who have taken advantage of our fundraiser with FrontSight Bonus. Those who are now FrontSight members, please train as soon as possible for your sake and for that of our nation. And please consider sharing your training and what you've learned when you arrive home. Republic Broadcasting Network has to stop promoting this fundraiser on air and on the website in just a few days. Dr. Ignatius Piazza, president of FrontSight, made a gracious exception to his no media rule for us at Republic Broadcasting Network. Thank you, Dr. Piazza. And once you've been to FrontSight, feel free to call your favorite host and share your experience on the air. We can continue this fundraiser without media help, but it'll be totally up to the listeners to spread the information. Please call Dan Sutterfield in Missouri at 573-465-2356, 573-465-2356. That's 573-465-2356.
His website is IsraeliNewsAlive.org. There's a link at my website at the links page. We're our last caller here, Steve. We got Glenn in Pennsylvania. Good morning, Glenn.
Good morning, John. Hi. Just a real quick note about this notion of the infallibility of the Pope. The Pope is only considered infallible when he makes what are called ex cathedra statements from the throne of St. Peter. And there are only a handful of those pronouncements that have been made, like 3 in the 20th century or something like that. So on a day-in, day-out basis, the Pope is not considered infallible in his proclamations, and he is subject to correction by groups like the College of Cardinals and the Holy See and that sort of thing. So it's tremendously influential, obviously, but not technically infallible.
Aha. Well, that's good information. We appreciate that, Glenn. Thank you, sir. The Catholic Church is in turmoil, to say the least, aren't they, Steve?
Well, the one thing that I look at when I see the situation in the Catholic Church, like I said, when these ladies had come to the conference here, that really give me some education that I was unaware of, because there's a lot of good Catholic people out there. And but to hear that in their words that there was an infiltration, and then not only that, John, I had there was a Catholic news organization. I shouldn't say news organization. As a Catholic church, it writes news articles, and they wrote an article about the things that I was speaking on at the time. It's been a couple of years ago, about the Catholic churches, specifically under Pope Francis. And they were in agreement with me, and I was totally shocked that they were in agreement. And of course, the issue was I was speaking at that time when Pope Francis had gone up on the on Mount Zion in the above the tomb of David and held his communion service, and I said that he was fulfilling prophecy out of Obadiah, where it said they would drink upon God's holy mountain, and which is not a very favorable prophecy. Mind you, but I knew it because in Hebrew we can see it a little bit easier than you can in English, because in Hebrew it clearly shows that it would be men only that would drink, they would have a communion service, and it would be on Mount Zion. And then the nations would continue to follow that tradition. And of course, afterwards, they continued to do these communion services, and it was no longer just the Catholic Church, but all the other churches began to get involved. And I even said in the beginning, I didn't have a problem with the Catholic Church doing this in the upper room. I said, okay, it's a Christian site. But when they threw the Jewish people out of the Tomb of David and did it in there as well, I'm like, that's showing that you now have the authority beyond that of what in the Israeli government, and enforcing that seemed to be just a little bit.
That was a one-time, one-day deal for a ceremony.
No, it wasn't one time. Now, the one time they did it in King David's tomb, yes, it was one time there, and it did cause such an outcry in Israel that finally they put a stop to it after doing it for several months there. But who knows? The Catholic Church does. I used to think they had a lot of sway over, but not.
Steve, thank you, sir. We're out of time. I'll be back next Tuesday.
Talk to you then. Take care,
Okay.
John.
We have a break. We'll be back with Leon Green. Stay tuned. Our prepper tip of the day. This is the time of year when men and a few women get their chainsaws out and start cutting firewood. I encourage all of you to please consider, do this for yourself, please consider getting yourself a pair of Kevlar chaps. Make sure you wear your heavy leather work boots, heavy leather work gloves, and get one of those helmets that got the hearing protection and the face shield also, so you got proper protection. It's just a really smart thing to do. Chainsaws are incredibly dangerous pieces of equipment, and you need to do the right thing and make sure you get proper protection. We have patient waiting in the green room, my friend Leon Green. Leon is a gentleman who began a quest more than a decade ago to become quite knowledgeable in anything and everything to do with incorporating doTERRA essential oils into your daily life so you can have a healthier life, a more prosperous and pain-free life, and be able to do the things you want to do. Good morning, Leon.
Good morning, John. And I agree with you in doing the things you want to do. This last weekend I did a Op 4 class with a bunch of Ready Men, a bunch of Special Forces. There were 15 people in the class along with 5 Op 4. And we had the very expensive laser simulators where you'd get shocked if you were delinquent in your cover of concealment. So you're running around. So yes, you could hear the people when they get tagged at that 10, and you'd hear them scream, "Ah!"
Yeah, baby. Well, I see a photograph here that you forwarded to me of the students and the instructors. Looks like we've got about 6 or 7 guys in a kind of a desert pattern, and then the rest, well, maybe 7 or 8 in the desert, and then several in the woodland pattern, camouflage. And what was the location of this training?
This is north of Salt Lake City by about 10 miles, and Bountiful. And it was this man has 90 acres, 96 acres up in the hills, and he's got everything. Paintball courts, forts all over the place, swimming pool, and 2 pools, one side, outside. It's just incredible. And when you were talking about, not to change the subject too fast, but I agree with you. Normally I don't spend that kind of money on personal protection equipment, but I remember when I was like 11 years old, my father cut himself with a chainsaw. He bled all over the place. We went to the hospital. So he had huge stitches, and saws are very nasty in the fact that, lacerations, it's avulsions, and it's highly susceptible for infection. So, if you have an emergency like that in regular times, it's bad. But if you have it when there are no medical facilities, amputation and fatalities would be typical if you do not have access to higher end medical trauma. And so, I have the helmet. I bought the Kevlar gloves. I got the chaps. I normally don't go full bore, and I did because I saw my father almost lose his leg. So it got my attention. So I wanted
that's a very to have that happen right in front of you to somebody you love is very traumatic, to say the least. And a chainsaw is nothing to be taken lightly. It's the power, the ability of a chainsaw to cut through human flesh is phenomenal. Of course, Hollywood's made some great movies. I wouldn't call them great, but horrific movies using chainsaws as a weapon of mass destruction. And I can't, other than people, men working for professional landscaping outfits that they're required by their bosses to wear them. I never see men wearing Kevlar chaps, unless they're mandated and required to by their employers. They simply don't. And it reminds me, I see people riding motorcycles with flip-flops and shorts, and I'm thinking, these people are not, they're insane. There's no protection at all. I will not ride my motorcycle without my my armor. When it's cool weather like we're having at the moment, my leather jacket has armor to protect my spine, my shoulders, my elbows. When it's hot weather, my jacket is a mesh that lets the wind go right through it, still having the armor on the spine, the shoulders, the arm, the elbows, and of course my leather chaps, which most of the time is adequate to protect people from injuries when a motorcycle goes down. And I noticed a photograph of you here, Leon. You had your knee pads on. I didn't notice. Did you have elbow pads also? I don't see any elbow pads.
No, sir. I didn't put them on this time because we're predominantly in the trees. But when you had to stop often, you want to get down and lower your exposure. So yes, I had the knee pads. I'm going to definitely change it from the out of my camo is already pre-positioned in my retreat. So I just grabbed all the scraps left here, and I realized that it was funny. They said even the SEAL came up to me later and said, normally when you do things like this, try to have the green stuff up high, and if you have to go a desert, do it low. But
right.
And he was right, and so I was throwing lots of trees all over me. And whenever we set up for the ambush, the course was on ambush and tactics, and so Op 4 would be given a certain way, and we'd have to, we'd do the L, and the first one, you could see all the mistakes made. There was a lot of fratricide, blue on blue, man on man. And so what happened was, we learned quickly about, how you have to stay in the L formation as much as possible. And even toward the end, you could see how the use of a drone would be highly effective. Even if you got it up so high, it'd be very difficult for someone to shoot it. But I can see I'm going to be acquiring one of those with a high-end video, because if you have a lesser force against a much greater force, you can definitely see where you're exposed. And even if you do lose the drone in the initial attack, if there's 15 out there, it changes your mindset drastically as thinking, okay, it's just us against a couple of people. And then we did one night. I asked him 2 months ago, can we bring some night vision and we can show the people who don't know about it how powerful it is and how much of a force multiplier it is? So they did it the first night, and they had a lot of PVS 7s. A couple people had 14s, and I think there were 2 or 3 that had PVS 14s that were mounted as binoculars. And
right.
Some people were astounded how the 7s were. And then toward the end, I said, here, you want to see the difference between the 7s, second gen, and before, and the 14, so I let some people use mine, and they're like, that's night and day. I said, yeah, that's why it costs so much. So don't get, I'd rather have somebody get one PVS 14 and wait a year or 2 and get another one than to buy a cheaper one, a Gen 2, and then find out, wow, there's it's like having a difference between a Lamborghini and a Daewoo. There is a noticeable difference, so save the money for that.
Well, I agree. I was talking to somebody about spiders recently, and they're concerned about sleeping someplace where spiders could be inhabiting. And I know there's one or more oils that spiders, if the oils go through a diffuser, the spiders don't want to be around. Or what would those oils be there, Leon?
Yes, sir. Yes. Well, the most prominent one is peppermint. All the mint families, they despise that whole menthol flavor profile, and so when they breathe it, it's actually very aggressive against their breathing apparatus. And so, yeah, that's the most important one. The entire mint family. They can also use Terra Shield, which would also cover the other insects. It's a great repellent, and I believe they're going to add these 2 new oils that came from the convention a week and a half ago, which will be citronella and lemon eucalyptus. and they found out that peppermint has a half-life for of a half an hour, and that's when you dosage it, it's a half an hour. So if you're just using peppermint specifically, that's why the diffusing is more effective than just spraying. And
right.
So, but lemongrass, lemon, eucalyptus, and citronella are fantastic for, and has a much longer half-life, and that means how much is in the body after the initial dose. So you start off at 100%. When does it actually metabolize to 50%? And so the peppermint was the one that was described, but citronella is much higher, and especially if you put it on the skin, you put it on close. So yes, that would venture to say that'll be added to the Terra Shield, and you can also increase that. And so what I'm going to do with my own bottles is until they have the new formula added, I'm just going to add a lot of citronella to it.
Well, when you live in the country, bugs are an issue. We have lots of bugs, and if I'm having a guest here, my daughter and grandson were here 2 months ago. I have a whole protocol I go through to thoroughly vacuum over, under, behind everything. Then about 24 hours before the guests arrive, I set off a fogger in the premises, let that dissipate, and then follow up, last but not least, with the peppermint and the diffuser while the guests are here, and of course put down the glue boards. Something we find with these brown recluse spiders is that the glue boards are very effective. The ones I use are fairly small. You put them out of the way under furniture, behind furniture, along the walls where the spiders like to creep and crawl. And they're very effective in capturing all kinds of walking, crawling insects. But you have to go through all these things to have a safe haven for people to not have any chance of being bitten by a brown recluse spider or any other bug as far as that goes. But it's doable. It's doable, and it works. And we have a good time living in the country here, Leon.
Yes, sir. But I also agree with you in the fact that you want to minimize the exposure, because brown recluse, they have been associated a lot with the necrotizing fasciitis, or the flesh-eating bacteria. So I've seen people's, the amputations attached to that. And so, to minimize that, and I saw a gnarly-looking 3-inch, they call it a tunnel spider, and I have a picture of that, and I also got a picture of a rubber boa, which I didn't know existed here in America naturally. And I have pictures of it, and this guy picked it up on the side of the road, wrapped it around his hand, and apparently some animal had got to it because it lost like the last 10% of his tail.
Uh-huh.
It was almost albino, and it was incredible to see it. It's on my GoPro, so I can't just literally send it to you. But yeah, I was quite surprised at how big this thing was. It was about 16 inches long. But the spiders, people should be concerned about, because bites from that, along with ticks. I mean, ticks, Lyme's disease as a whole, and in many cases, the ticks are up in the top 3 of being the most virulent, in the fact that they have so many pathogens that they can pass, along with spiders. But people think of flies bad pathogen, but ticks are really bad, especially in the forest areas of America, and it's even bad here in Colorado, and I'd assume it's pretty bad there where you are too.
Well, it is for most people. Up until maybe 8 or 10 years ago, I had as many ticks as anybody else, but something about my physiology must have changed. My pH, something, because I just don't find ticks on me anymore. It's I go for a 1 mile walk every evening, and through the woods and through the fields, and so I'm certainly exposed to them. But if one does get on me, they don't seem to want to latch on. They just kind of walk around until I take a shower and they're gone. So I'm blessed in that regard. But ticks and Lyme disease is a serious matter, isn't it, Leon?
Absolutely, and there are people who have. I mean, I've heard of people being let go from their job because of how disjointed and how much cognitive loss they've impaired or impacted because of the bites. And so, yeah, they call it Lyme brain is the name of it, Lyme's disease. And it is very much an issue here in America, and it seems to only be getting worse. And so I would definitely recommend, you use that when you go out in those places. And that's another thing I need to increase more of is my amount of Terra Shield, which is a proprietary blend by doTERRA that is a great repellent, and until they impact or until they change the old formula, I'm going to add a lot more.
So somebody would use Terra Shield as a bug repellent anytime they're going outside, then, wouldn't they?
That's correct. And so you put that on, in advance, so you don't get bit. And you can. And what's unlike DEETs and that carcinogen that you see that mothers at the park will put on their kids, even though it says do not put on the skin. Just you're supposed to be only on the clothes. But how many times have you seen the kids just getting inundated by it? It is terrible, but they do it anyway.
Army issue insect repellent in Vietnam did not have any perfume in it. It was just the pure chemical. And so we had mosquito nets over our bunks, and a lot of the guys, including myself, would put the mosquito net down about an hour before we wanted to sleep and spray the inside of the mosquito net with this disgusting spray. And then after about an hour, go in there and lay down and sleep, hopefully bug-free. I got so used to having mosquito net when I got back to the States. I woke up in the first few mornings reaching out to touch the mosquito net that wasn't there. I was really disoriented there, Leon. Where's my mosquito net? There's something wrong. What's happening here? It's amazing how little habits like that can become such a big part of your life.
Yes, sir. And when you think about the impact, many times we just discount it. And so if you get bitten and stung by flies, people always ask, well, what are the best oils for that? Well, there's a blend by doTERRA called Purify. And that has a whole list of oils, but one of the biggest ones in there is lavender. And so it is an analgesic. It is also an anti-inflammatory, and it is fantastic for the anti-itching, and so it's an antihistamine as well. And so Purify is a very good one to have on hand, specifically for bites that occur after. But if you can be prophylactic and you can prevent it from happening in the first place, that's the best way to go.
Hold that thought, Leon. Hold that thought. We got a break. Call numbers 800-313-9443.
As a listener of RBN, you're surely concerned about being informed and being ready for whatever may come. Please consider the following questionnaire as a soul-jarring wake-up call. If you answer no to more than 2 of these following questions, you probably aren't going to make it through any major disruption in our country. The questions were compiled by people that have been there. Are you really ready? Do you own your own firearm for the primary defense and protection of you and your loved ones? Have you ever been professionally trained to stand against life-threatening behavior? Have you ever practiced enough to fire 500 rounds during a 2 to 4 day time frame, day and night? Can you load, unload, fire, and clear a jam in total darkness? Have all the adults in your household been professionally trained? Are you, life and death, comfortable with your abilities with pistol, revolver, shotgun, and rifle? Are you aware that everything that you do to prepare for an emergency is a waste of time, money, and energy? If you haven't honed your abilities to their highest level to protect and keep what you have, do you have the repair parts that will most likely be needed for each of your firearm, and do you have the ability to install those parts? Could you completely clean every firearm you own? Are you aware that your body won't go where your mind hasn't been? In other words, without proper training, followed by regular practice, you probably will not win a gunfight. Well, How did you measure up? Take the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to start correcting your deficiencies by receiving your Commander lifetime membership with Front Sight Firearms Training Facility. A one-time donation to RBN for $500 will give you a Commander lifetime membership at Front Sight as a tremendously huge thank you bonus. See details on RBN's webpage to make it happen. The clock is ticking. You had better be ready before it happens.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore here on Tuesday, the 24th of September. We're going on a cruise. Leon's going with us. We've got others going with us, already signed up, booked their cabins. There's a high likelihood that Sam Andrews, our Monday, Firearms Monday guest, will be going with us. And it is not confirmed yet. I'll be speaking in Orlando on Friday the 8th. We'll get confirmation of the venue probably next week. Steve Ben Noon is working with me on that. It'll be a lot of fun. This cruise will be a lot of fun. Leaving Port Canaveral Saturday, the 9th of February, returning a week later. The Harmony of the Seas is a massive resort, luxury resort on the water, 20 restaurants, different activities every day that are fun. We're going to have our own activities course. Everybody that goes with me and Leon will be getting together privately to discuss the things we talk about on the radio, the training things that we discuss, geopolitical matters, with no commercials, and plenty of time to just talk about things in detail. Details at my website at thelibertyman.com. You can call my cruise director. If you do not have internet access, my cruise director, Betsy Murphy, will be glad to mail you a nice full-color brochure. Betsy's telephone is 636-530-9502. We're visiting with Leon Green. We're talking about doTERRA essential oils and related topics and not so related topics. And it's a great opportunity. Here's how you get started. First of all, go to my website, thelibertyman.com, and under products, just click on products. There's a drop-down menu, and you'll see the fourth thing down is doTERRA oils. That's your, it goes directly to my landing page with doTERRA. That's number one. Number two, get yourself two editions of the same book. The 5th edition and now the 11th edition just published this month of the book titled Modern Essentials. Then you're ready to go. Now, if you need private consultation, or if you'd like to make doTERRA into a part-time business and have some extra stream of income, just give Leon a call. His telephone is 303-4905-2188. I say again, 303-4905-2188. That's Mountain Time if he's not there, because he's off doing some training that I'm envious and jealous of. Just leave him a message, and he'll get back with you. Leon, doTERRA is a place where people can really dramatically change their life for the better, can't they, sir?
Absolutely. The impact, the positive impact these oils can have in your life is considerable. I mean, even this weekend when I was hopping up and down all these hills with a bunch of people younger than me and also a couple of people older, having the deep blue for pain abatement and elimination, And also breathing. Think about it. If you're at a mile and you're carrying 40 pounds on your back.
What altitude?
On these hills. We're at Salt Lake City, so it's pretty much mile high too.
Okay, and 5,000 feet or so. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
well, the air is definitely thinner when you get a mile above sea level.
Correct. And I had taken a medical course earlier, and it talked about the normal saturation of oxygen in the blood of an adult is 95%. But when you come to altitude, it can drop down to 92, 93%. And you're like, well, that's only 3% difference. Well, it makes a huge impact on cognitive activity and exercise. And so, most people, most adults can adapt in about 2 to 3 weeks, depending on, their fitness level. And so, I live in Denver, so I'm already here. But there are times when I go up to 10,000 or I go skiing at 13,000. I'm like, whoa, I can definitely feel it here. So I realize that cardio fitness is imperative, especially thinking that, you're going to need your fast twitch muscles for certain things, but for the most part, for you to be consistent, moving like you was talking about earlier, cutting the firewood, and just doing slow endurance, gardening, laundry, the whole gamut of everything that humans do that we've taken for granted with all of the electronics and electrical powered saving devices. That is it may go away. And people say, well, I have a gas generator. Well, gas is eventually going to go bad, or it's going to no longer be available. And so propane is by far the next best thing. And matter of fact, one of the guys there in the class showed me a picture of one of the red Honda 2200s, and they had a propane tank, and he didn't know that was feasible. I said, yeah, you can do that in propane last indefinitely. So that's by far the best way to go. Just make sure you keep that Honda in a Faraday cage if you want to use that guaranteed in the future. And so he didn't know much about the EMP aspect, but I said, yes, that'd be something that would be a great way to go. I need to buy an adapter for my own Yamaha so I can do the same thing as well.
Well, I was talking to somebody about I was at a British car show Saturday, and I was looking at one of my favorite cars, a favorite car I owned, which was a Morgan Plus 4, and it was 1968, and the owner was a woman. I said, when these cars came from the factory, they were ran on propane. She says, yeah, I know that. This one's been converted back to gasoline. But, well, it was the regulations changed in 68 for these emissions, and that's how they met them for a while. We have a bottom of the hour break. Call numbers 800-313-9443.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We have a special promotion going on at Republic Broadcasting. This is a fundraiser for Republic Broadcasting involving the Energy Cleaner. Mail me a postcard. My address is at my website at thelibertyman.com. We pick a postcard every other Thursday. When your postcard is drawn out, you get to buy an energy cleaner for $215 instead of $285, $70 discount. $200 goes to Republic Broadcasting. You also get a 10% discount on my mattress pads. So get those postcards in, put your name, your telephone number, your email address on there, and when your postcard is drawn, you get to get an energy cleaner for $215 instead of $285. Mattress pads, 10% off. Help us out at Republic Broadcasting and help yourself to get an energy cleaner at a deep discount. It's a win-win situation for everybody. We hope you can get these postcards in soon. Thank you very much. All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore here on Tuesday, the 24th September. My website is thelibertyman.com. That's thelibertyman.com. Lots of things there. We have daily updates. If you're looking to stay up to speed on what's going on with geopolitical matters, just scroll, scroll down to where it says open source intelligence. This is put together by a friend of mine, former counterintelligence agent. And I got a bit of a cough there, sorry. Updated daily, dozens of articles every day. And also, of course, at my website, you'll find energy cleaning for sale. If you have arthritis pain, what are you waiting for? Seriously, what are you waiting for? It's not going to fix itself. Get yourself an energy cleaner. $285 shipping included, 2 American zip codes. And the mattress pads that go with them, I got everything in inventory. The handy travel size, the twin size, full, queen, king. Even I got some California kings in stock right now. Everything's right there, ready to be shipped. And this is my home business. When you place your order, I box them up. I take them to the Little Country Post Office at Cherryville, Missouri, where you can get all the coffee you can drink all day long for 75 cents. I just got a cup of coffee yesterday in St. Louis, $2.15 for one little cup of coffee. So get the details at my website at thelibertyman.com on the energy cleaner, the mattress pads. You can also call my toll-free hour line 24 hours a day. Don't try to contact me. You won't get me. This is my order line, professional order takers, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Visiting with Leon Green, we're talking about doTERRA essential oils and related matters and not so related matters. And it's part of an overall healthy lifestyle. And it's not the silver bullet. If you think you can continue having the three main food groups being beer, pizza, and ice cream, and use doTERRA oils and be healthy, well, you're wrong. It's going to take more than just doTERRA oils. It's going to take some lifestyle changes, attitude changes, exercise changes, nutritional changes, dietary changes. All these things combine together, don't they, Leon?
That's correct, sir. And matter of fact, knowing what's coming down the pike in January, January 3rd, we're doing an elk hunt, so they actually have a tag for an elk, but then they're going to shoot the elk in the middle of snow up in the mountains that you just saw, and they already have snow on mountains nearby. And then
who gets to drag this thing out of there? What do those things weigh?
Exactly.
1,200, 1,500 pounds?
Correct, but we're going to have to process it, throw them on a sled, and snowshoe out under OPFOR. So we're going to have opposing forces trying to steal our meat and follow us back. So it'll be.
So you and your buddies are going to be dragging more than half a ton of the 1,000 pounds. So it'll be more than half a ton of this moose on a sled, while the opposing forces, the OPFOR, are going to be footloose and fancy free, not trying to drag more than half a ton of meat on a sled. I don't think you got a snowball's chance in hell there, Leon.
Well, I'm glad it's really a moose. It's a moose. You're right. Those things weigh up to a ton and some. Now, this is only one of the lightweight elk, so hopefully it's not
it's
too
an elk.
big,
It's not a moose. Okay, yeah. A lightweight elk. And you're looking at what, 900 pounds instead of a ton?
Yes, sir. And so I talked to the guy and I asked him. We have 15 people, and I pray everybody
shows up this time. This could be a movie, a reality show.
I hope it doesn't get that graphic.
I think there's a high likelihood that it could there. Well, at the end of the day, who gets the elk meat?
Well, I think I'm going to take some elk meat after I carried it, 4 miles in waist deep snow, and we're using snowshoes. And I'm going to I have some inexpensive ones, but I'm going to get some higher end ones that I don't have to worry about breaking. But I want to get some practice in before I have to lug this. They're going to process it up in the mountains, the bone saw and everything, and we're going to take off and leave. And so, what we have to, one thing I definitely need to do is find my thermal scopes, because that will help drastically. They think, hey, they can just put on white camo and get away, but
right.
Well,
thermal imaging would make a big difference in that environment. Well, snowshoeing, even without dragging an elk behind you, is one of the most strenuous physical activities a human being can engage in. And especially if you have any uphill parts at all, that would be quite a challenge.
Yes, sir. So yes, saying about what I was trying to say is, getting in shape and staying in shape. And so, yeah, it's crucial now, but people dismiss it because I can worry about it later. And this is one thing I learned this weekend. Did you see how much the Fed has opened their discount window, and they've given $370 billion, 4 times, a total of 375, 4 times all these banks that can't get money?
I was in a meeting yesterday, and it's called quantitative easing, I believe. And
yes, sir.
It's bad. I'm sorry. I regret that they're doing it. On one hand, on the other, my opinion is we need to do whatever it takes to keep this economy afloat, at least until President Trump gets reelected. And because if the economy goes down, it'll be blamed on the president, even though he's doing everything he can to make America great again and do the best he can with the economy. But he will get the blame for it, even though it was not his fault, won't he?
Absolutely. And I thought they were trying to keep it afloat for Obama just because the Democrats or the communists were trying to say, hey, this is going to look at just like Clinton. Everybody says Clinton was the great. No, he was. I consider them more like bus drivers. Who was driving the bus when the accident occurred, or when you got through, when you avoided the accident? So, Clinton didn't do anything special. All these things were intact before him. He just rode the wave of that increase, and so everybody looks at him as a demigod. But he has such an evil past, and the number of people, dead bodies in the skeleton closet is just keep mounting even after. And now with Miss Clinton, she's doing all the silly things, and her count is getting higher too. So he's doing the best he can do. It's what he has, but I could see they would blame everything on him, if any crashes occurred.
That's right. Well, nothing us barefoot peasants out here in Flowerland can do to stop that or change it. What we can do is take care of ourselves, take care of the people we care about, which includes becoming knowledgeable of the oils. That means getting the books I mentioned, Modern Essentials, 5th edition, Modern Essentials, 11th edition, incorporating these things into your life so you can be healthier and enjoy real health as opposed to taking pharmaceutical products to cover up and mask symptoms, which is what most pharmaceutical products do, don't they?
Absolutely. And what they want to do is mitigate the symptoms, but they aren't in the curative, in the traditional drug or pharmaceutical model, because if you're healthy, think about it. If you're absolutely healthy and you don't have to go to the hospital, they don't get paid any money. Whereas if you are dead, they don't get paid any money. But if you're in between those extremes, then what happens is it's a $2 trillion industry, and you're always going to have trauma. You're going to hear the fire alarm going down the road, and somebody got in a car accident. I saw 3 this weekend, and one truck, I should have sent that picture of, in Wyoming, it just flipped over and just laying in the middle of the highway. It looked like a big carcass. And so trauma is always going to happen. But the preventative ones, prostate cancer and colon cancer. Colon cancer is the number 1 cancer that can be avoided. So, but that's attached to excessive meats, especially the processed meats, having a high sugar diet, beer, all the white rice, white bread, because that acidizes the body, and cancers can't exist in an alkaline body. And so
that's right.
If people just miss on a sugar, they could have a huge impact. I've got 2 calls just on this trip alone, people frantic about their relatives. And, Steve, he contacted me about a gentleman who had prostate cancer. And so because of that, it's like, wow, it's getting worse, and people think, oh, yeah, it only hurts other people. But 1 in 2 men in America will have cancer, and 1 in 3 women. So it impacts a huge amount of people, and the repercussions are huge.
Right. The repercussions are massive. Now, we're not saying the doTERRA oils will keep you cancer-free, but if the whole body is healthier and alkaline, then you're dramatically less reduced risk of cancer because of that alkaline, healthy body, correct?
Yes, sir. As a matter of fact, when they test for cancer, when they do the test, what they use is glucose to find it. And so if you think about it in that capacity, if they're using sugar to find where the cancer nodes are throughout the body, that is where the cancer is so pervasive, it actually will reroute blood vessels in order to get more blood to that specific one. That's why you see these tumors that, they were the size of a grape one time, and then 3 months later it's the size of a muskmelon, because it can reroute blood, and that's how pervasive it is. So, it's not something to be played with, and there are different modalities, and one is that I sent to Steve was the Truth About Cancer. It's a YouTube webinar series, and they have like 15 experts, doctors, researchers worldwide, and they show the efficacy that they have used. So they've used Royal Rife technology and the Gershon techniques and many others. And so by having access to these techniques and methods, it has a huge impact after the cancer has already started. But if you can prevent it by changing your diet, exercise, sleep is incredible for that. We talked about it 4 months ago after watching that movie, the show on cancer, the Sleepless in America, and it showed one of the biggest impacts of lack of sleep, which Americans are notorious for, is it is directly related to the amount of cancer. And so, the people are like, we think, I can get by with 4 hours of sleep. You may mentally think about that, but your body is going to impact it in depression, diabetes, cancer, suicide, Alzheimer's, dementia. All of those are directly related to lack of sleep. So, we talk about exercise a lot, but sleep is something crucial in it. We as a sophisticated Americans dismiss, outright, and it's much to our detriment.
Absolutely. Well, as the old saying goes from a TV commercial back in I guess it was the 60s, you can't fool Mother Nature. It's not nice to fool Mother Nature. That's what it was. It's not nice to fool Mother Nature. And people think they can fool Mother Nature and intentionally disrupt the circadian rhythm and stay up until 2 a.m. and sleep until noon and think that causes no harm. It does cause harm. Shift workers, police, firemen, nurses, shift workers have all kinds of health-related issues because of their circadian rhythm is constantly disrupted, don't they?
Absolutely. And if somebody wants to see that, I got that video at a local library, and so it's not hard to find. It's called Sleepless in America, and it starts off where a resident medical student ran into a car and killed the majority of his family, and it showed how, even though he was doing his best, and these residencies, can be 10, 12, 24-hour long. In essence, they're doing the same thing they do with the special forces. They want to see how far they can push them before they crack. Well, you don't want somebody who's that far astray to be working on your children or yourself and making mistakes. And in this case, he was just driving home. He fell asleep at the wheel, killed mother and 3 of the kids. And so it is a very good, very captivating video. So if you get a chance, get it for free. It may be available on YouTube, but I'm positive you can get it at most good libraries. Mine is not phenomenal, but it has it. And I would highly recommend it for people to watch it because it goes in depth about cancer and diabetes and overweight. And when people talk about, hey, I'm gaining weight and I can't lose it. Well, when you mess up the circadian rhythm, it affects the glucose in your body, which also leads to more diabetes. And they even did it at this most recent convention. There were 30,000 people at it, and at the arena, they had a bunch of people stand up and say, okay, in 5 years, these are when people are going to be dead. So this one whole section showed all these people who die of cardiac or cardiovascular disease, which is the number 1 killer in America, and cancer is number 2. And went down the list and showed all these dead people, and they all stood up, and then it did the diabetes, and pretty much the bottom whole floor, so over 16,000 people stood up, and those are the ones who would get diabetes in the next 5 years. And it just blew me away as how, people get diabetes every 5 seconds in America. And that can be, and this is type 2 diabetes, so it's not like they were born with it. Their diet mandates that the body is going to now have diabetes. So, it is something that we can prevent, but people, they just get complacent with the propaganda on TV, and it's going to be very detrimental to their lives. And one other thing he talked about was this is the first generation since 1914, 1918 that is going to die earlier than their parents. And that's because of the diet. Yes.
Well, there's a lot of factors into it, including the heroin epidemic and the heroin overdoses. But it's been more than a century since the children did not outlive their parents, and that's just a crying shame. It doesn't need to be that way. I see at Amazon they've got the film Sleepless in America for sale. Used copies are $16.59. New ones are $100 of all things. I guess it's out of print. But it's a National Geographic documentary. And the kind of thing a large library would keep in stock, I would think.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And matter of fact, I will be sending you the information on, they're going to be doing a regional conference. They do an update so people can learn more about the new oils. They can be exposed to doTERRA as well, locally. So I will send you those links so you can see what's going to be in the St. Louis area.
Yeah, well, I'd like to attend one of those. So get those links to me, and we can talk about it. Maybe I can get them on my website, and people can attend the ones here closest to them. That would be great.
Yes, and they do it worldwide. So people are like, well, I'm taking off to Thailand for 5 months. They're going to be all over the world. So yeah, doTERRA is actually the behemoth in the essential oil industry because we focus on purity and efficacy, potency. And so if we don't pursue anything else, it doesn't. So I'll wait till next.
Hold that thought. We got a break. Right.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356 or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN, at hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore here on Tuesday, the 24th September. Well, Leon, we haven't mentioned it for a while, but the essential oils are mentioned in the Holy Bible more than 300 times, aren't they?
Yes, sir.
And
when you think of like Rose of Sharon, lavender, cassia, myrrh, they're mentioned, and the reason why they're mentioned because of how effective they are. And like you already said, the Bible doesn't waste time on simple issues.
That's
so
right.
They are important.
That's right. Well, before I understood what the oils really were, I always thought that the three wise men wanted baby Jesus to smell nice, which is why they brought frankincense. But they weren't concerned about baby Jesus having a pleasant scent, were they?
Correct. No, and think about it. He brought they brought gold, frankincense, and myrrh. So both of those are health related. Gold was the financial aspect. So you can see it was 2-to-1 ratio of the importance. Because if you're not around, it doesn't matter how much money you have. You're not going to be healthy or you're not going to be alive, whether these are pathogens, infections. So it's important that you have the protection in advance. And so when I come down and see John and Steve in 2020 for the cruise, on the plane I'm going to be using On Guard every 15 minutes, because every bug you can think of, the Super TB, MRSA is going to be on the planes, and they use the bathrooms, they touch everything that people touch, you're going to have aspect to it. I mean, you're going to be exposed to. So you protect yourself in advance. I just went on the way back from my trip from Utah. You see these people coming out of the bathroom, and they just bypass the sink, and I'm like, wow.
Right.
And I followed. I'm like, I'm not even about to touch anything that they touch. Use my elbow to get out of here, because all that fecal stuff is going to be everywhere, and people are going to get sick now. Let alone when everything goes south, when they have poor hygiene and sanitation.
Well, the majority of injuries in almost all wars are minor injuries and illnesses and things related to poor hygiene and poor nutrition. And of course, the bombs and bullets kill a lot of people, but what kills the most people is those minor things that don't have to happen, correct, Leon?
Correct. And you think about the Civil War. More people died from infections than they did from the bullets.
That's right. That's right. Well, my great-grandfather was inducted into the Union Army in Steelville, Missouri, right down the street from me here, in 1865. Not long before the war ended. I think it was just a few months before the war ended, which probably saved his life, which meant I got the opportunity to be here. So, and I'm glad his life was saved. But we have certainly a high potential of hard times ahead for us, and if people have the oils and know how to use them, they have a lot better chance of surviving, don't they?
Absolutely. So, you're going to enjoy life better now because you'll be healthier, you'll be exposed to less bugs, and you won't be sick in the bathroom toilet. And so protect yourself now while you can.
We're out of time. We'll have you back next Tuesday. Appreciate it.
Thanks, John.
Okay, that's it for the day. Get your medical supplies, your energy cleaning, your essential oils now while you can, your firearms and ammunition. Never ever